Wel, gai yn gyntaf ddweud pa mor braf mae wedi bod I dreulio ychydig ddyddiau fan hyn yn y ddinas hynod hon Casnewydd. Ges i'r fraint o fedru dod I nabod y ddinas yma yn ystod fy geiniau, dod I nabod bri a bywiogrwydd I diwylliant, cynhesrwydd hynod I phobl, a mae wedi bod yn braf ail ymweld ac ail ymgadrefi yma am ychydig ddyddiau yn ystod y gynhadledd. Conference, a full generation has passed since this nation of ours decided to place its future in our own hands. This was not just a decision to replace one group of men and women with another. This was a decision to create a new Wales, a Wales in which poverty of ambition and circumstance were abolished, and a new era of leadership, purposeful, answerable, inspirational, and transformational, was placed at the very heart of our Constitution and the public life of our nation. We wanted for our country, so long a land of wasted potential, to be instead a land of opportunity. Our hopes, our demands for our country were by no means radical. By all prevailing standards, they were modest. That our children could grow up free of poverty, that the education of our young and our care for our elderly was at least on a par with our nearest neighbours, that we gave the best chances we could to people at the start of life and the best care possible at life's end. 1997 was, to use that phrase much uttered of late, sometimes on the most curious of lips, a vote for change. Not change for change's sake, but change for a purpose, the founding purpose of any democracy, to lift up the people by the people's own hand. It wasn't a new state we wanted to build, so much as a new society, distinguished by social justice, by economic dynamism and cultural achievement, and yes, tolerance, kindness, and love. 1997 ended 18 years of Conservative rule, and that was undoubtedly a liberation. But much more than that. It ended the studied disdain of distance, social and geographic, that flowed from 500 years of being ruled not by our peers, not by our own people, but by the gilded mansions of another nation. Self-government for us has never been an end in itself. It was the means to self-advancement, self-improvement, of self-determination, to prize ourselves, not individually, but collectively, out of the rut of poverty, ignorance, and disease into which accident of birth had cast us generation after generation. Government by our own people meant for us government for the people, above all else, a new Wales, a new chance. I echo here the sentiments of a young man who fought for his country's freedom, though never enjoyed its fruits, Michael Collins. He, more than any, would have been celebrating that headline from yesterday: Unionists lose majority for the first time in the Northern Ireland Assembly. Unionists, or should I give them their real title, British nationalists. If they can do it, conference, so can we. I was surprised to see Gyto Beb naming him the other day as his political hero with some half-baked analogy between the Irish Free State Treaty and the Wales Bill. I guess they both sparked a civil war, though in the latter's case it was confined to the Labour Party. Now, One thing Michael Collins would have never have done is to join the Conservative Party. A short while before he was killed, he gave one last speech on building up Ireland, setting out his vision for the future of his country, and such is its enduring power. I think it deserves to be quoted at length. This is what he said. "The growing wealth of Ireland will, we hope, be diffused through all our people, all sharing in the growing prosperity, each receiving according to what each contributes in the making of that prosperity, so that the wealth of all is assured." How are we to increase the wealth of Ireland and ensure that all producing it shall share in it? That is the question which will engage the attention of the new government. What we must aim at is the building up of a sound economic life in which great discrepancies cannot occur. We must not have the destitution of poverty at one end and at the other an excess of riches in the possession of a few. That was Ireland on the cusp of freedom over 90 years today, over 90 years ago. Now, when we look at the Wales of today, as I was saying yesterday, we're more connected through technology than ever before, but we have, as Age Cymru said yesterday, an epidemic of loneliness. We have a wealth of opportunity. This single device has more computing power within it than the Apollo spacecraft that was used 50 years ago to escape from Earth's orbit and return safely from the moon. And yet, we are continually confronted by evidence of our failure to solve the most basic problems of our everyday life. We have the highest proportion of children living in poverty of any nation in the UK. 1 in 3. 200,000 lives blighted right at their very beginning. We have had in Wales since 2010 a statutory commitment to eradicate child poverty by 2020. But while poverty in Scotland and the northeast of England has been going down, here it's increased compared to 10 years ago, and it's set to increase even further. And what's the Welsh Government's policy response? To end our biggest anti-poverty programme, Communities First, and put nothing in its place. "25 years ago, I wrote this report for a major conference on the future of the valleys, rebuilding our communities, with Professor Kevin Morgan, who went on to lead the 1997 Yes campaign. The depressing fact is that on rereading this report now, it's just as relevant now as it was then, because nothing much fundamentally has changed. Kevin then was a member of the Labour Party, which he has subsequently left. In this report, we quoted David Marquand, who was then a member of the Labour Party and has subsequently left to join us, and he's here in the room with his wife, Professor Judith Marquand, as well. I think all four of us, I suspect, are natural cooperators, progressive pluralists by inclination, striving to find the common ground, which can often be our best chance for change. Kevin and I ended our report then with these words: "If the unpretentious claims of the valleys for decent jobs, for better public services, and for a clean environment are to be met, we simply must come to terms with the fact that what we have in common is far more enduring than what divides us here in South Wales." It's that characteristically Welsh motivation, the disposition to cooperate for the common good, that brought us together under one banner in 1997 in Yes for Wales, and 10 years later in One Wales. It's why we work where we can, even now in opposition, through the Welsh National White Paper on the withdrawal from the European Union, for example, to embody the politics of the united front, not that of a broken and divided nation. But the problem And I say this in regret as much as in reproach. The problem in all this is glaringly obvious. It's called the Labour Party. This is a party born from the struggle for social change, which now propagates, in our country at least, the mindset of social inertia. The First Minister, by temperament and belief, is about as far as it is possible to be from embodying the radical urgency of now. There was a time when, stung by my criticism of his bad political posture, he started standing up straight at that lectern in First Minister's questions. But now he's slouched back into the slow and easy complacency of unchallengeable supremacy. A session at FMQs is like being enrolled at a really poor quality university, being lectured at but learning nothing. A few weeks ago, he proudly told us, arm resting on his rostrum, how he'd come up with the idea for the South Wales Metro at Bedwas Rugby Club. Sometimes, if I close my eyes, I can hear him saying to strangers at the bar in the rugby clubs of his retirement, I used to run a country once. Labour in Wales is failing, and it will fall. The only question is, who will be there to pick up the pieces? For the future of our nation, at this time, there can only be one answer to that question. It has to be us. Not us in the narrow sense of this party, but us in the collective sense represented by this party, of our taking responsibility for our own problems, the solutions to which, as we hold up a mirror to the state of our nation, are quite literally staring us in the face. That task of moving from complainants to controllers of our own fate, authors of our destiny, shapers of our future, begins with the local elections in May. Wales will not be liberated by a mass march in Cardiff, or even a match in Cardiff. It's those small steps we take, down a farmyard lane, up and down a valley's terrace, the time you take to listen, that will liberate Wales. Brick by brick, the new Wales will be built from the blessed ground up. Governing locally is how we demonstrate to people nationally that there is a better way, that we don't have to accept the inevitability of poverty, disadvantage and decline, that another Wales is not just possible, but the urgent imperative of the times in which we live. We have underinvested for generations in the skills of our young and the care of our elderly. The new tax powers give us new possibilities, and we as a nation must now decide on our priorities. So we as a party will ask the people of Wales over the summer how these new powers should be utilised. Should we raise a penny for a purpose dedicated to transforming our beleaguered NHS? 200 million for our schools and colleges could close the gaping chasm of funding per student between Wales and our neighbours. We could, if we chose to, build a health and education system that was equal to the best. We could become the test-bed nation for solving the societal challenges of the next generation. And it's in that spirit of innovation, I'm pleased to announce we, as a group in the National Assembly, are about to create an ideas lab, focusing on new ideas for our economic transformation, which, given our guiding inspiration, is that new Wales we have a restless desire to build, we will call Nova Cambria. Nova Cambria, for the historians among you, was the first attempt to create a new Welsh homeland in South America, some 15 years before Oladva in Brazil, led by the visionary Thomas Benbow Phillips from Tregaron. The community failed when many of its members, some of whom were colliers from the old county of Gwent, decided to work in nearby mines in Rio Grande do Sul, owned by others, rather than attempt to grow their own cotton. There's something of a metaphor there for the Welsh predicament, I think. We have long planted the seeds of our hope in distant shores and distant cities. But the hard truth, inscribed in the bitter arc of our history, is this: we can only ever build the future of which we dream here in our own land, with our own hands. We don't believe in self-government for self-government's sake, or opposition for opposition's sake. We're not here to tear down. We're here to build. So this May, let's begin to build that new Wales, here, now, together.